Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to give you a straightforward guide to finding and mapping federal data sets, which are available in ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. My name is Lisa Berry, and I am a senior product engineer on the Living Atlas team here at Esri. I specialize in data sets related to the population, such as the ones sourced by the federal agency, the US Census Bureau. I'm joined today by my teammates, Stephen Aviles and Diana Lavery.
Hello, I'm Stephen Aviles. I'm also a product engineer on the Living Atlas of the World team.
Hi, and I'm Diana Lavery. Also work with Lisa and Stephen, and happy to be here as part of the Fed GIS conference.
All right, well, thanks, Stephen and Diana. So to get us started, when you map with ArcGIS technology, you may not know it, but you have ready-to-use spatial content at your fingertips. That ready-to-use content is available through ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. What this means is that you no longer have to go on this goose hunt chase through various websites and FTPs trying to find and access data. Instead, you have the content you need within your maps in just a few clicks. Living Atlas is the foremost collection of worldwide geographic information provided by both Esri and the global GIS community. This community includes all types of organizations, from federal, state, and county governments, cities, environmental groups, universities, and even private companies. Today, we'll be focusing on some of the federal data sets available for your mapping needs and how to use that content. Fundamentally, the spatial content you'll find in Living Atlas comes in a few forms. Understanding these basic formats can help you find what you need more quickly. At the core of online maps, there are layers. These point to a database hosted online and work similarly to the mapping data you have on your local desktop. The value of these layers is that they can easily be modified and shared to fit your mapping needs. Add layers to a map when you want to do all of the customization work yourself. This leads us to the next fundamental, which is a web map. A web map stores a layer or many layers along with the configurations such as your cartography, your base maps, your labeling, etc. You can find many of these web maps in Living Atlas, which can be saved to your content and be further modified. These are good for when you want to use a map that's already been made, but you just want to make a few tweaks. And finally, there are applications. Applications provide maps and data in an easy to understand format, which can be useful when working with non-GIS audiences who just need maps and answers quickly. There are ready-to-use applications that you can quickly share out within your stories, but you can also use the layers and web maps we just discussed to create applications of your own. Now, let's get down to the real reason why you're watching this, which is to learn how to use and map federal content. Living Atlas contains GIS content from many government agencies, which is open and free to use by the public. This covers a wide range of agencies, such as the ones you see listed here. For example, there's a federal subcommittee called the Homeland Infrastructure Foundation Level Data, or HIFLD, and they collect and share federal data sets that are critical to our country running smoothly. For example, broadband towers, railroads, freeways, bridges, and more. There's also agencies like the US Department of Agriculture or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which share valuable insight about the world around us, such as weather, crops, hurricanes, and emergency response related content like flood zones or evacuation zones. You may also be familiar with agencies here, such as the Census Bureau or Bureau of Labor Statistics, which cover a wide range of topics related to the population, such as jobs, housing, race and ethnicity, income, age, and so much more. Living Atlas also contains 26 live data feeds from federal agencies, which help us map the world as it is right now. These layers are updated at regular intervals, calling to federal data feeds. So instead of spending the time accessing an API or file structure, you can easily visualize weather, wildfires, hurricanes, earthquakes, air quality, and even COVID updates by simply adding these layers into your maps and apps. With that short intro, I'll be handing you over to my colleagues, Stephen and Diana, to cover how to think about these federal data sets in 3 different ways. First, you'll learn how to consume federal content from Living Atlas. You'll see how to find and access these federal layers, maps, and more. Then you'll learn some valuable techniques about how to configure Living Atlas content to your mapping needs. Finally, you'll see how to create end products, which help you share out your mapping masterpieces to your audience. So with that, I'm going to hand you off to Stephen Aviles, who will start us off with a demo about how to consume from Living Atlas.
All right. Well, thank you, Lisa. And as Lisa has mentioned, I'll be showing you how to find and use federal datasets using ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world. Here I am at the homepage of the Living Atlas website. I can see in this What's New section, there are a number of blogs that mainly use federal datasets, such as FEMA's National Risk Index. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We have one on ACS layers, which are from the US Census Bureau's American Community Survey, which is ACS. Now, if I want to find specific datasets, I can go to this Browse tab, and I can first go to All Regions and go down to United States to get specifically United States data. If I look at the top, I can see this says United States Edition, so now I'm on the right track. I want to find specific layers, so I'm going to go to All Content Types and then go to Layers. If I just type in federal, I should be able to find federal datasets specifically on the Living Atlas within the United States. I can see that some of these are by Esri, and I want to highlight this one right here, which is Esri US Federal Data. This one is a specific Esri account that houses federal datasets. Now let's say I'm interested in a specific federal agency, such as maybe FEMA. I can type in FEMA and search it there. I see there are a number of layers, some from foundations, some from Esri, and there's also a few from FEMA by FEMA_National Risk Index. Now these ones look pretty interesting, so I'm going to choose this National Risk Index counties. Opening up this tab will show me the item details page and show me a number of different things. At the top, I can see a summary telling me a little bit about what this layer is. I can see this feature layer is by FEMA. I can get the create and updated date telling me that this layer is pretty recent. The description tells me what exactly the National Risk Index is. I can see that the National Risk Index is a risk index that composes of 18 individual hazards, all of which are listed right here. I can also see that the National Risk Index shows me scores and ratings by expected annual loss, social vulnerability, as well as community resilience. I can see all the sources that go into the FEMA National Risk Index, and they're all listed right here. Now I can open the map viewer in order to see what this layer looks like in map format. I can see that this map comes in at the lower 48 states. And if I click the legend button, I should be able to see what all these colors actually mean. I can see in dark red, it indicates a high rating for national risk. And that means that areas in red or yellow show areas where there are higher risks to natural hazards. Now I can see right off the bat that there's a story to be told just by looking at this layer. I can see in the West Coast that mostly there's red and yellow indicating higher risk for those counties for natural hazards, but mostly in the Midwest and Northeast, there's a lot of blue indicating that there's lower risk for natural hazards. Now there are a few ways to consume this feature layer. I can easily just embed this by using the URL. I can save this map myself if I go to save. I can also just take a screenshot pretty quickly and put that into a report or any kind of format. And one other way to consume it is using this print button. If I go there, I can do a quick little title. put in any kind of format that I would like, and then hit export, and I can get a quick printed map that can go into reports or any other kind of web formats. Now I'm going to go back to the Living Atlas, and I'm going to showcase just one more feature layer. Let's say I'm interested in current year ACS. I can just type in current ACS. I can then see all these ACS layers that are here. Now, these feature layers by Esri Demographics is an account that our team manages, and all of these ACS layers come directly from the Census API. I'm going to click one of these layers, such as ACS population variables boundaries, just to take a look. Again, so all this data that we have from ACS comes directly from the census through the API. But if I look through data and go to fields, I can get a little bit more information that our team has added. We've put in long field descriptions, so it's a little bit easier to figure out what exactly all these fields mean. And we've also added a few additional fields that are Esri calculated fields, such as percentages and ratios. You can find those just by quickly searching Esri calculated fields, and you can see all those there. Now, what if I want to add this ACS layer into the FEMA map that I already have? Let's go back to that FEMA layer. I can go to Layers, Add Layer. From My Content, go down to Living Atlas, and then just search in Current ACS. You can see at the top, there's this ACS population variables for boundaries. I can quickly just add that in. And if I want, I can save that and then share that out. Now, let's say I want something that has a little bit more, I don't know, finesse, or something that looks cooler, something I don't want to configure at all. I don't want to do any configuration for these layers. I can look at web maps. So instead of layers, I can click web maps. And let's say I want to look at something like unemployment. I can look for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, search that, and I see a few maps that answer some specific questions. For example, how did unemployment change since the last month? Where is the highest unemployment in the US? And how did the unemployment rate change over the past year? I see this web map is by my colleague Lisa. It has a pretty neat thumbnail, so I'm going to click that as it looks pretty interesting. And I'm going to go to Open in Map Viewer to view this web map. And again, I see that this map opens up at the lower 48 states. I can see that in blue, it indicates that there has been a decrease since the last year in unemployment. Now I can see a story that's being told pretty quickly here. Most of the states in the US are in blue, indicating a decrease in unemployment. I can see by how much, judging by the size of the actual circles. So for instance, if I look at Las Vegas, where it is in Clark County, Nevada, I see a decrease from 13.7% to 6.6%. That's a pretty sizable change in a decrease in unemployment. So if I live in that area, I could definitely share out that story. And one other story that can be told is by looking at the areas that are in red instead. I can see an increase in unemployment over the past year in a few counties in Iowa as well as Ohio. And again, to consume this, I can easily share this by the URL, take a print screen, or use the print icon or function, as well as just saving this and doing some additional configurations. Now I'm going to go back to the Living Atlas, and let's say I don't want to do any configurations, but I want something with a little bit more utility or functionality. I can go to this app section for that, and I might want to look at web applications. Here I see a number of highlighted web applications. This one specifically looks at drought. If I click on View App Details, I can see a little bit of a description of what this is about, and I can see who it is contributed by, which is Esri. I'm going to go to View Application, and I can see again that this web app shows us the lower 48 states. But I also see that there's some bookmarks up here that go to Alaska, Puerto Rico, as well as Hawaii. I'm going to hit home to go back to the lower 48 states, and I want to know a little bit more about what this web application can actually do. So I'm going to hit this little eye icon, which is for information. I can see in this About This app that this indeed is sourced from authoritative US government sources, specifically NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, as well as the US Census Bureau's American Community Survey. Looking at drought definitions, I can see that abnormally dry is in this tannish yellow color, and then going down to exceptional drought, we can see that is in this dark red. I can also find out how to actually use this application. I see that all I have to do is click an area to get the information. And also, once I click, a time series graph will appear, and clicking in any of those specific time series will change the actual display of the drought monitor map. Lastly, if I use the wheel to zoom in and out of the time series graph, I can get a more detailed look at the specific time. So for example, if I click on Los Angeles County, I can see this time series graph that shows me the drought condition over time. I can see some additional information such as what the latest drought conditions are, what the population affected is, as well as some agriculture impacts and drought outlook. If I scroll in, I can see some more detailed looks at specific dates and their drought conditions. And lastly, if I want to look at states instead of counties, I can click this states button and look at states, as this goes from Los Angeles County to California. Now this web app is ready to go. I didn't have to do any configurations, and I can just embed this using this URL or take specific screenshots of places that I'm interested in. And with that, I'll hand it over to Diana.
Thanks, Stephen. So that was a great way to see how to consume Living Atlas content. I now want to move you into configuring and creating a little bit more in depth. So to configure, we usually start here at a blank web map. I know this is the Federal GIS Conference, and one state within that area is Delaware. So that'll be our area of focus today. Let's zoom to that part of our map and start from there. So as Stephen showed, we can add layers to our web map from Living Atlas, but once you're already in the web map, first of all, you're only going to see layers, which makes sense, not the cool apps and web maps, since we're going to be configuring our own web map. And also, I can toggle this option on to say, only show me content within this maps area. So if you don't have information for Delaware, don't even show it to me. I'll use that same search phrase of current ACS, the American Community Survey, and there's a specific one we'll use today that's designed for emergency response. I can view that item details page directly from the map viewer. And yep, this is the one I want. I'm going to add it to my map and select the legend to orient myself to what this is mapping. Households with no internet access would definitely be something worth knowing in an emergency. We're going to get tract level data for the entire nation here. So one thing about Living Atlas content is it often has nationwide or even worldwide coverage. We want to filter this down to just Delaware. So over here on the side toolbar, we'll click filter, and it's really easy to do all kinds of multi-expression filters and things like that, but we're just going to do a basic one that says state equals Delaware. So only map the tracts where the state is equal to Delaware. There's a field called state. That's the one we want. It's scanning through all the tracts and coming up with all those unique values. California has the most tracts, so that's the one we see first. We can use the drop down, or we can just type in. All right. This is going to apply a filter to our area of interest. We only see tracts for the state of Delaware. I'm actually going to turn off the state and county layers. Many of these layers and maps are multi-scale, so when you zoom in and out, the tracks will turn off and the counties will turn on. And then when you zoom out even further, the states will turn on. But we're just going to focus on Delaware right now, so only tracks. Let's go to styles and see how we can change our map and style this nice layer. So as shown, it's showing percent of households with no internet access. We want to choose a different field. And I just want to give you a flavor and taste of all the types of fields available in this emergency response layer. There's things like disability, heating fuel or lack thereof, language spoken, all kinds of things like that, no vehicle available, etc. The one we're going to map today is households with no smartphone. All right. So you'll see that there's actually a count attribute of households with no smartphone and a percentage. Let's just add the count one for now. And ArcGIS Online automatically picks up on the fact that this is an integer, and it's best to map integers with this size symbol rather than that filled polygon color. So this is our default options. We could go in here, we see what the average is. And again, this is just for Delaware because now it's filtered to only those tracts. So our average, our standard deviation, we can move this up and down and the map instantly responds. Let's go back and add in a second variable now. We'll add that percentage. Again, we'll search on smartphone since there are lots of percents in this layer. And now, because we're mapping two attributes, we get a lot more mapping style options that will appear. Things like compare A to B, predominance, relationship, which was a style that my colleague Keith went over in a previous webinar, and all kinds of different options. We'll stick to color and size, as was what was starting to draw earlier. The color and the size, well, the color should be the percent and the size should be the count. So we're going to have to swap this over, and you can see now that it's going to restyle our map very quickly. And yes, the percent is in the color, the count is in the size. But let's fine tune this a little bit more. First, let's choose our color. There are a lot of different theme options. The traditional high to low is always a good one, but you can also choose above and below to anchor your map on a particular value, such as 0 or the state average or the national average. And above, if we only want to emphasize things above a particular threshold, for example, and likewise below. But we'll stick to high to low today. And I want to stretch this a little bit more to show, 10 to 30 to show a little bit more of a spread in my color. There are many different types of color ramps available, and they're also tagged with things that are colorblind friendly, for example, or best for light backgrounds. Since I'm using a light background, I will choose that one. And you can see the many different options available to you for color ramps. Let's go with that one. And back up here, there are also options for shapes. We'll go with diamonds. All right, so we've styled our color option. Let's now go into size. And again, we can fine tune this a little bit more, testing out how things look when we slide things up and down. I like kind of round numbers in my legends, so I'm going to go with 1,000 and 10. There we go. All right, so symbology looks good. Now let's click on one of these tracks and see what the pop-up looks like. This is coming directly from that layer in Living Atlas. This is helpful information, but what we're really focusing on is this one right now. So we want to make this stand out a lot more. Moving on from the styles button on the toolbar down to the configure pop-ups button. This is where we can change that pop-up and configure it for our needs. We'll click on the text, and here we go. So this is the field, or excuse me, this is the line that we really want to emphasize. So we'll do that. And you can see how easy it is to turn things off of bold, to italicize some things, unbold that. Maybe we're really not interested in health insurance for this particular event. We can just take that out entirely. All right, so now we can see that our pop-up looks the way we want. It's emphasizing what we're actually mapping. All right, so our map looks pretty good. I want to save this in my content because now I've configured it for my own purposes. I'm going to call it Delawareans with no smartphone. You can add tags for yourself so that it's easier to find later on within your content. So that's configuring a web map from a layer. As Lisa showed earlier with that layers to web maps to apps, we're now going to create some apps using something called instant apps. These are templates that have a very focused user experience that can really elevate your map and make it a shareable end product. So ones that you might be interested in as a journalist would be Media Map or Countdown, possibly even Chart Viewer. And you can notice that it's saying, hey, you don't have a chart yet, so that's not going to work too well for you. But there are lots of options here. Let me show you Media Map first. This one is designed to be embedded in a larger news story. And it's just very simple configuration options, no coding needed whatsoever to take your web map and put it into an application. All right, so here we go. Yep, that's the map we want. We want a legend to appear. We also might want to enable hover pop-up rather than click pop-up, things like that. So let me toggle that on. And do we want to enable search, things like that? Let's go ahead and publish this app. Yes. Confirm. What we'll get is a bunch of code that is designed for us to embed in a news story. So I could copy this, hand it to my webmaster, or put it directly myself into my online news article. And it's really easy to change the size of this map, things like that. So I've actually already created a media map that I will show you here. And I'm just hovering over the tract, not clicking on it, and you'll soon see the pop-up appear. And you'll notice that this app doesn't have a title to it because, again, it's designed to go into a larger media story, hence the name Media Map. So let me try again. Let me try on this tract. You can see the pop-up just comes without even clicking on it. There you go. All right, so back to that Instant Apps gallery. Let me now show you that same web map now in something called Countdown. This is nice when you want to do like a top 10 or top 20 experience and tour through a web map where it's going to rank the tracts or counties or whatever the case may be on a particular attribute. So again, a very similar configuration experience. We will hit next, And the details is just something like welcome, tour through the top tracts in Delaware that, or where households have no smartphone. Something pretty simple like that. Next would be the countdown section. Let's make sure it's on tract. Number of features to display could be top 15, top 20. We'll keep it at 10 for now. And then the ranking field. Here are all the different fields in that layer. Remember, we have mapped 2 of those fields. So which one do we want to rank on? Let's just rank on the count, the households with no smartphone. And we can rank high to low or low to high. So we'll do high to low, meaning that the highest values of this count field will be what it's going to count down toward. All right, we can just keep this really simple, and you can see all the different options available here. I've actually already configured this countdown app for you. And here we go. So again, we get our map, we get our legend, a little quick blurb up here. This can be as long as you want. It can include even or links or all kinds of stuff. But as you see, we're now going to tour through the top 10 tracts within Delaware, and we'll see this number rise ever so slightly. So that is a way to go from layer to web map to app. And so we configure the web map that we want based on layers available in Living Atlas, and we create these end products such as these instant apps. With that, I'll hand things back over to Lisa.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so Steve and Diana, those were incredibly valuable demos. You guys really gave us a full tour from start to finish about how to find data and then customize it so that we can easily share it out to the world in a digestible way. We saw the Living Atlas website, smart mapping techniques within ArcGIS Online's new map viewer, and examples of instant apps, which can easily be embedded into your final stories, as Diana mentioned. Thank you guys both so much for the detailed but succinct demos about using federal data from Living Atlas. With that, I'll close us off with a handful of resources to help you with your own mapping journeys. At your leisure, feel free to visit the URL at the top to learn more about all the things that you saw today. That URL is https://esriurl.com/livingatlasfederal. And then you'll find all the things that you see right here. We look forward to seeing what you all create and share with the world using ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. Thank you so much for joining us today.